What's going on, everyone? Tayler Kyles here for CLNS Media. This week, we're previewing the top 5 players at the top 5 positions of need for the New England Patriots. Today, we're diving into the offensive tackles. The Patriots have had issues at tackle for the past 2 seasons, largely due to the decline of Isaiah Wynn last season, which really shook up the position. Now, Mike Nwenu moving to offensive tackle this season was a big help, but I think especially when it comes to young developmental players, the Patriots could use an injection of talent, and it would really help if they had a solid veteran presence who could help that young player potentially not have to start immediately and grow behind the scenes. So here are some options that I think could potentially fill that role. First up on the list, we've got Tyron Smith of the Dallas Cowboys. Now, Smith is one of the more talented left tackles, not only in the NFL, but in NFL history. He's an absolute freak athlete and a monster of a man who's tough to get around and excels in both pass protection and as a run blocker. Now, the issues stem from whether or not Smith would actually want to come to New England, as towards the end of his career and just being released from the Cowboys, he's likely looking to chase a ring before retirement. There's also the issue of health, as Tyron Smith hasn't played a full season in quite some time. Now, if the Patriots are looking for a high-quality option to potentially fill in until a young offensive tackle is ready to come and play, I think that Smith is, again, one of the more talented options, but there's the question that we're going to get with a lot of free agents over whether or not he'd even want to join a rebuilding franchise. Next up on the list, we've got Trent Brown, who's been with the Patriots for the past couple of seasons. Now, I understand there are a lot of concerns about Trent Brown, and he also voiced some displeasure with the past regime, but I am curious as to whether or not Gerard Mayo and his staff are willing to give Brown another chance, or whether Brown would be happier under Mayo's new regime. Now, Brown has had some health issues, especially last season, and he did play in every game during the 2022 season, despite losing over 10 pounds with the flu mid-season against the Buffalo Bills. Now, Brown is one of the more talented offensive tackles, not just on the market, but in the league when he's motivated and at the top of his game. But if the Patriots are looking for guaranteed consistency and someone they can rely on a weekly basis, I'd understand if they just think it's time for them and Brown to part ways. Next up, we've got another familiar face, offensive tackle / guard, Mike Nwenu. Now, Mike Nwenu wasn't given the franchise tag, which was a bit surprising considering his positional value, but it's also possible the Patriots are wondering whether or not he's going to be viewed as a guard or a tackle on the open market, which could completely alter how much he ends up making in free agency. Now, as we know, Mike Nwenu is an outstanding player with versatility, who also did tell A to Z Sports' Sophie Weller that he does want to return to the team, although it's understandable he'd want to see what his value is going to be on the open market to maximize his potential earnings. Nwenu also fired his representatives earlier last week, so he will be representing himself, and we're not sure whether or not that's going to work for or against him, but ideally, he and the Patriots can find a way that he can continue to stay in New England, particularly with Gerard Mayo calling him a franchise cornerstone. Next on the list, we've got Jonah Williams, who I think is probably the Patriots' best option at the left tackle position. Now, Williams toughed it out at right tackle for the Bengals last year, despite wanting to play the left side and having been at that spot going all the way back to his days at Alabama. Jonah Williams isn't the most athletically gifted left tackle, so he is going to have trouble against some of the better edge rushers, but he is a technician who's more consistent than any of the other options are probably going to have a true shot at on the open market. Jonah Williams would also be a perfect bridge option, as you could sign him to about a 3-year deal, where the first year you make sure that you just have the left tackle spot secured, but in future seasons you could potentially use him as a trade chip to get extra draft capital or potentially another player, while you let your young rookie, who would ideally be in their second season or even be able to contribute in the middle of their first season, and give them an opportunity. Last on the list, we've got Germaine, who had a cup of tea with the Patriots in the early 2020s and has spent the past couple of seasons with the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, he's quietly flown under the radar as an extremely solid right tackle option, so if the Patriots aren't able to re-sign Mike Nwenu, he could potentially be a strong bridge option for a young player if the Patriots decide to double dip at the right tackle spot. He's been solid as both a pass protector and a run blocker, so there aren't any glaring areas of concern, although he is an older player who isn't the most athletically gifted, but he is, like I said, a player who can contribute in both phases of the game and at least give you a solid bridge option like a Jonah Williams while you let a young player develop behind the scenes.
Testing my skills on Prize Picks this season is the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $1,000 with just a few taps. Use the code CLNS for the first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy.